In the mid-1970s, the tightly packed, quiet suburban neighborhoods of California became hunting grounds. Between 1974 and 1986, a highly organized, heavily armed intruder committed at least 13 murders and over 50 assaults across the state. He targeted families in their own homes, often breaking in days in advance to unlock windows and unload firearms. And then, after 12 years of escalating violence, he simply stopped attacking. His abrupt disappearance left investigators with physical crime scenes, but zero actionable leads, creating a complete investigative void for a police force relying entirely on analog files and fingerprints. They did, however, possess perfect physical evidence. Investigators had carefully preserved the killer's DNA from one of the early crime scenes. But a criminal database only works by matching what it already knows. If a suspect has never been arrested and swabbed, their genetic profile will never trigger a hit. For decades, law enforcement held a complete biological blueprint of a serial killer, yet they had absolutely no way to attach a name to it. By 2018, investigators decided to change their approach. Instead of running the profile through police systems to find the killer directly, they asked if they could locate him by finding his distant relatives. This single realization shifted the entire manhunt off the physical streets of California and directly into the realm of digital data. Investigators took the preserved crime scene DNA and uploaded it into GDmatch, a public genealogy website designed for civilians to research their heritage. The system scanned millions of profiles and found a hit. It wasn't the killer, but it was a distant third cousin. This is the foundation of forensic genetic genealogy, using a relative to reverse engineer a suspect's identity. Genealogists start at the bottom with that third cousin, tracing the lineage backward to find a shared common ancestor at the top. Once identified, they reverse the process, mapping descendant branches forward in time to plot every living relative. The unidentified killer was now trapped within a massive biological web of his own extended family. But this web still contained hundreds of individual people, leaving investigators with the daunting task of isolating the actual perpetrator. They filtered the data, eliminating anyone not matching the killer's male gender and age. Next, a geographic filter stripped away branches without ties to 1970 Sacramento. Methodical elimination collapsed the vast digital web down to one inescapable point. The data revealed a name, a 72-year-old retired police officer and mechanic named Joseph James DeAngelo. To bridge the gap between digital theory and physical proof, police secretly tailed DeAngelo until they secured a fresh DNA sample from a discarded tissue. Lab results confirmed it. The tissue was a perfect match to the crime scene DNA. A highly trained predator who spent 40 years evading traditional police tactics was ultimately identified by the genetics of his distant cousins. In April 2018, the digital manhunt materialized in the real world as federal and local agents surrounded DeAngelo's quiet suburban home. The boogeyman who had paralyzed an entire state was finally dragged into the light. Despite his heavily armed past, DeAngelo offered absolutely no resistance, surrendering quietly on his front lawn. 2 years later, to avoid the death penalty, he stood in court and formally pled guilty to his crimes. The myth of the untraceable phantom dissolved, leaving behind only a frail man in a wheelchair. This capture proved to law enforcement that the passage of time is no longer a guaranteed shield for perpetrators. By successfully weaponizing public DNA records, this investigation created the exact template for modern cold case forensics. These databases offer an incredible tool for justice, providing families with definitive answers after decades of waiting. However, they also create an uncomfortable ethical tension regarding privacy, as law enforcement actively mines public family trees without explicit consent. It leaves us with a difficult paradox. The most effective digital tool we have for solving our worst crimes requires the collective surrender of our biological anonymity.